Today's story comes from Kuwait. Before we begin, let me introduce you to Noura. Born in 1950, Noura was the daughter of Sana, a famous folk artist and one of the most renowned artists in Kuwait at that time. Noura studied political science and was the only folk artist with a university degree. From a young age, she loved the songs and events her mother hosted, and she would always accompany her mother to performances. After Sana's death, Noura decided to continue her mother's legacy and become a renowned folk artist in Kuwait. Indeed, Noura's dream came true, and she became very famous, not just in Kuwait but across the entire Gulf region. She performed at events for princes and notable figures all around the Gulf, who personally invited her, and she received substantial amounts of money compared to other artists of her time. Everything in Noura's life was wonderful. She loved her work, was financially stable, and lived peacefully. However, everything changed suddenly after a mysterious phone call in 1997. After answering and exchanging greetings, she heard a woman say, "My daughter's wedding is coming up, and we would love for you to perform at the celebration." Noura responded, "God willing, but please specify the day and the location." The woman said, "The wedding is on Friday in the Sabahaya area." Noura apologized, explaining, "We have Fridays off and don't work then." Despite this, the woman insisted and pleaded, saying, "My daughter has sworn not to have the wedding unless you are present." After persistent urging, Noura, feeling sympathetic towards the woman and her daughter, agreed to go. The Sabahia area is located in the south of Kuwait, quite a distance for Noura. Initially, her band members strongly opposed going to the event after Noura informed them. However, they changed their minds upon learning about the substantial payment. Unfortunately, they were unaware that this event would turn out to be their last performance. On the evening of Friday, they prepared everything and headed to the Sabahia area. Throughout the journey, Noura felt uneasy and worried. Upon arriving at the venue, they were shocked by what they saw. The house they expected turned out to be a large, luxurious palace with dazzling lights, unlike any ordinary house. Noura and her band entered the palace, stunned by the sight before them. They encountered something unlike anything they had ever seen before. The place seemed like it was from another world. The tables were laden with all kinds of food in unimaginable quantities. The walls were adorned in a fascinating manner, and the furniture was of the highest quality and elegance. Everything was unbelievably magnificent. However, the strangest observation was that all the food dishes consisted solely of meats. The bride's mother greeted them, a very large woman dressed in black, with rough hands and a face unlike ordinary humans. Her features were strange and rigid, like stone. The band, including Noura, consisted of 8 members. The bride's mother led them to a guest room to change and prepare for the performance. One band member, named Shams, expressed her unease and discomfort to Noura. Despite Noura's attempts to reassure her, their conversation was interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. A group of girls entered to greet the band, and it was odd that they all shared the same features as the bride's mother, dressed in black, with rigid features, rough hands, and long, sharp nails. Suddenly, the room's temperature rose significantly, all band members felt uncomfortable and uneasy. Despite sharing their feelings, Noura encouraged them, saying, "Don't worry, let's finish quickly and leave." As they began the performance, they were surprised to see an exceptionally large number of guests, making the space feel cramped and making it difficult for them to move towards the bride and groom. The guests felt as solid as statues. After some effort, they reached the bride and groom, who appeared eerie in their old Ottoman attire, with expressionless faces, not looking at or interacting with each other, just standing still. As the celebration commenced and everyone started dancing, the dance style was terrifyingly abnormal, with dancers seemingly floating off the ground. Witnessing this, the entire band was filled with fear. Shams urged Noura, "We must leave this place immediately." However, Noura insisted, "We must finish, no matter what happens." Subsequently, Noura felt dizzy and decided to rest in the guest room for a while. The loud music and singing prevented her from resting, so she opted to find a quieter room upstairs. Upon reaching the second floor, she entered what seemed like a different, eerily dark and dilapidated house. Despite her exhaustion, Noura sought only to rest. She found a room, and as she approached, the door mysteriously opened by itself. She entered and immediately fell asleep on the bed due to her extreme fatigue. However, she was tormented by a terrifying nightmare. Uncertain whether it was a dream or reality, in her dream, she saw a woman hanging from the ceiling, screaming at her with a loud voice. Startled awake, Noura decided to end the performance quickly and leave. As she was leaving the room, she spotted a small child running down the hallway, possibly a lost guest's child. But when she tried to follow, the child vanished suddenly. Continuing her way downstairs, Noura felt someone grab her arm. Turning to look, she saw no one, but suddenly heard a voice calling her name,
Noura.
which filled her with fear. She quickly went down to the guest room, where she found the entire band, and Shams was unconscious. After waking Shams, Noura inquired about what happened. Shams explained that the guests were asking for her, so she went looking. Along the way, she encountered a tall, bulky man in black, with unclear features, who suddenly disappeared. Shams found herself back in the guest room, surrounded by the band, and was inconsolable, pleading with Noura to leave the place immediately. Noura responded, "I've seen worse than you. Let's finish this, as dawn is near." The band resumed the performance, but they were paralyzed with fear, especially after witnessing the guests' terrifying dance moves, which revealed their animal-like legs beneath the lifted dresses. The band was terrified, but Noura urged them to continue. Suddenly, Shams fainted again, and they took her to the guest room. Upon regaining consciousness, Shams was distraught, exclaiming, "Do you see? Who are we performing for? These aren't humans, and we need to leave now." However, Noura insisted, "We can't leave before dawn. It protects us. If we leave now, we might get harmed." They returned to the party, which grew more intense, with guests dancing wildly around the band. Suddenly, at dawn, the lights went out. Noura advised the band to stay quiet and leave calmly, and they managed to exit the house and run as fast as they could away from it. On their way, a man approached and asked, "What are you doing here at this time?" He seemed afraid of them, and the band was scared of him too. Noura explained. "I came here to perform at a party, and this is my band." Turning to point at the house, she was shocked to see an old, dark, abandoned building. Confused, she spoke to the man. "We were just in this house, performing at a party." The man looked at her with fear and astonishment, saying, "I live in this area, and this house has been abandoned for decades. The owners left because it's haunted." At that moment, Noura realized the call she received wasn't from a human, and the wedding they attended wasn't for humans. After this, Noura decided to retire completely, along with her band, never returning to performing again. And she avoided appearing on television or radio. One day, a journalist approached her for an interview to discuss her retirement reasons. Initially reluctant, Noura agreed on the condition that her story be told exactly as it happened, without any fabrication. The journalist agreed, and the interview was conducted. Although the interview was recorded with Noura's consent, the tape was mysteriously destroyed after the interview. A year later, the journalist died in a horrific car accident. Noura passed away in 2016 at the age of 66.